How's it going, everyone? It's not often you see me driving my truck, so welcome back to another video. So this is a quick one. This is more of an introduction video, but before I move on to the main topic, today I'm just going to a woodland. I'm going to explore woodland that I've never seen before, about 30 minutes from where I live. I'm very fortunate being in Scotland, so we have lots of woodlands, hills and trails to explore, lots of rivers, but there seem to be a lot of pine forests where I am, so I'm trying to find somewhere and recce somewhere that's more of a broadleaf woodland, just so I can mix it up a bit, you know, with where I go and what have not, where I camp. And if I find that little gem, it could be a regular camping spot. I do miss my broadleaf woodlands like I used to get down south. Anyways, this video is based on a question I was asked by an old friend of mine that I used to work with. He messaged me on Facebook and he wants to get into the outdoors and, you know, practice bushcraft and survival. Something obviously he's triggered, and he knows I do this sort of stuff. I've been doing it for years and years and years. And he was just saying to me, Sammy, you know, I want to get into bushcraft and I want to practice it safely. And I haven't got any equipment. I've got a sleeping bag. That's all I've got. And he goes, but how much does it cost to get started with all the equipment? And what is it I need? And that was a very broad question and a very good one as well. I'm sure he's not the only person who has ever asked that question, especially for a beginner. So the reality is, it doesn't have to cost a thing. That's the reality. It made me reflect on my early days when I was very out of pocket, more to say. You know, I didn't have much money on me. I was in a different position in my life. I was quite poor, to be honest. And there was a lot of things I used to do and create and make my own equipment, and I used to get things for free, and just to get me started, as a fundamental piece of equipment to get me started. And that kind of thought made me think about video series, hence why I'm making this video. I thought this would be a good one. So we're going to make a video series about bushcraft for free. You know, can you get everything that you need to have at least an overnighter in the woods for absolutely nothing? Okay, and there's going to be a few rules to this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut from here, and then when I find my location, I'm going to sit down, have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, make some food, and we'll have a discussion on how this is going to look. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a kit together absolutely free, and then I'm going to give it away. And that's going to be the key thing. This is going to be a series of videos, but we need a few rules in place. So next time you see me, guys, I'll be in my location with my lunch. So I'm in the woodlands now. It's really nice. Quite adventurous terrain here. I'm like tripping over things and all sorts. I was just talking to a gentleman in the parking lot there. He was from the south, funny enough. He was from not far from where we used to live. I used to live in Chesington, and he says this walk is quite a short walk. I'm not sure if this would be an ideal place for camping, because looking at it, it looks very public. There could be a spot, I don't know. What puts me off is the car park. It wasn't easy to find, but it's residential. So, I mean, if I was to park there, they might question, why is he there all night? Not that I'm not allowed to camp here. It's just, you know, I don't want people trashing my car. So yeah, but we'll explore this little walk and see how it is, what it's like. But yeah, when I find somewhere, I'll pop up and set up a little cooking station, make some food. I've got some eggs with me, so I'm going to make some eggs. So I'll see you in a minute. Yeah, that walk was pathetic. Literally 10-15 minutes walking around in a loop, and I came back to my vehicle. I was just like, oh, that's all of it, is it? Not a suitable place for practicing bushcraft and camping and being discreet. That's what I want, is discreetness. I know there's right to roam in Scotland, but it's just a little woodland walk. It's nice, don't get us wrong, but I don't think I'll be coming back to this one. It's not great. On the websites it says it was a great woodland walk, lots of broadleaf. It's beach, mainly beach everywhere, which is fine, but nah, not suitable. I'm gonna have a bit of a drive about, and if I can't find anywhere, we'll park up and we'll talk about this idea of bushcraft for free.
Okay, well, I explored that last place. Um, it wasn't ideal. It wasn't an ideal place to be for bushcraft. It was a nice little woodland walk, but it was like 15-minute circle, if that. And then I was back at my car, and I was just like, oh, so yeah, if you was to camp there, you're gonna get seen. It's not like that matters because where we live, it's right to roam, but it just wasn't an ideal place. So to address the question regarding how much does it cost to get into bushcraft? Well, this is a question my friend asked me, and now I'm sure my friend's got money and he can spend money on gear. But it gave me an idea of a series of videos that I want to do, and basically, it can cost whatever you're willing to spend, and that's the answer to that question. It depends on where you get your items. So you could either be on a budget, look at secondhand. That's a good place to go. I've got lots of secondhand equipment still used today, and it functions fantastically, and I'll never change it. Someone used it once or twice and then never use it again, and then I've taken it and then I've given it a good life by taking it outdoors and utilizing it for what it is, especially cooking items and backpacks and stuff like that. You can get that secondhand from car boot sales, charity shops, secondhand shops, all those sort of things. So definitely look at secondhand if you want to spend money in this. So I'm just going to move my seat here. One bum cheek's getting wet and the other one's not. Um, Definitely look at secondhand items if you're on a budget. If you've got all the money to spend, then go nuts. Temu is a good place for cheap equipment as well, and it's really good. I've been really getting into Temu lately. Um, but I want to talk about how you can get it for free. So I did say it could cost nothing. And when I first started out, I pretty much had nothing. I didn't really have much money. I was pretty much, dead end job. Barely had £2.50 in my pocket, to be honest. At times, it was just, yeah. So I didn't have much to spend, and I used to go out and practice bushcraft and play around in the wilderness and in the woods and all sorts, and have a great time. I used to camp out for days on end, and I got most of my items, I say not all of them, but most of them I got for free. So I'm going to set myself a little challenge and put together a comprehensive kit, a good bit of gear that I can spend at least one night with. Okay, and I want to do it all for free, but there has to be some rules in place just to show that it doesn't cost anything and you can improvise things. So, firstly, the rule is I'm allowed to make my items. I'm allowed to utilize things that I've got for free, like junk and rubbish and whatever, and make an item that I might need that can help me camp out in the woods. Okay. If I'm going to make my items, then the things that don't count are the resources. So things like the tools I make it with. So if I've got tools in my workshop, I'm going to use those tools. That doesn't count. I don't have to get that stuff for free. Same for other things like glues and threads and stuff like that. Then yeah, we won't count for that because most people have access to that kind of stuff and can get it anyway or have it in the house. Okay. But the item I make itself has to be for free and it has to be from free material. Okay. Um, that can then be recycling and upcycling. So that's something I can do there. Another thing that I can do is I can look for availability of free things that have been given away. So here in Scotland, we've got a few little huts because it's in the countryside where people just drop shit off and they don't want it. Okay. And people can go in there and take it and that's theirs. And they can drop things off. It's good for things like books and stuff like that, kitchenware and all the things like that, clothes. So I can explore those areas and see if there's anything being given away for free there and take those items and utilize it in a bushcraft kit. I can use things from there to make my items as well. I can also go in places like the marketplace on Facebook and go on Facebook Marketplace, see if there's anything being given away for free on the marketplace, and then use that stuff um, to go camping with, and it might be someone's got a bit of camping gear they're giving away, and if that's the case, I'll go and collect it, and that can then put together the kit. So that's the idea. Now, the other thing, let's put some rules that I can't do. I can't ask people directly for things. I couldn't go up to a friend and go, "Can I have that?" Okay. If my friend says, "Do you want this?" then I can take it. Okay. So that's one thing. Um, and the other thing is, I can't steal. I'm not allowed to steal items because I don't want to be promoting theft for on anybody. Okay. So if it's complimentary, on the other hand, so let's say if I go into fast food restaurant and they've got things like knife, fork, and spoons, plastic ones and that are going, I might grab them, okay, if they're going to be for free and put that with my kit. However, I might find a better option. So I'm not going to say that's what I'm doing. That's an idea. Um, and I'm going to put it into categories. So this whole Bushcraft kit I'm going to put together is going to go in the categories of shelter, so something to sleep under, something to sleep in, and something to sleep on. Then it's going to be tools, so that's going to be cutting tools. So things like my knife and a saw at minimum. Okay, if I can get a chopping style tool like a big knife, a machete, or an axe, then great. But if I can't, I'm not pressuring that. The knife and saw is more than adequate enough for what you need to do in the woods. Um, Another thing I'm going to need is cooking equipment. So things to make a brew with, like a little brew kit, as you've just seen there, my little Crusader kit. I can put together a brew kit for free, whether I make that or get it for free, and something to cook with for food, things like boiling and frying and things like that. If I can get those items for free, then great. Then I will do so, and that'd be my cooking gear. Utensils will fall into that, so things to eat with, things to cook with. Same for things like bottles, water bottles, and what have not. They fall into that category. So I've got to put all this gear together and improvise anything I can get to make cooking more achievable. So we've got shelter, we've got cooking. Fire, I need to put a little fire kit, just a small kit. That's easy enough. I've kind of done videos on that before, how to put fire kits together for free, especially with the flint and steel. So I'll do that one, do something like that, put maybe a couple of ways to make for fire for free. What else have we got? Now, I'm not going to include first aid to this because first aid is something you don't. I mean, there's items that you can improvise first aid with, like cloths and shemags and stuff like that. But first aid is something you want to spend money on, so I'm not going to include it into this challenge because that's something a kit everyone should own anyways, regardless whether they're out practicing bushcraft or walking around, doing hiking trails and what have not. A first aid kit should be somewhere anyways, so you should always have one. So I'm not going to include first aid for this, but it's mainly the items that you're camping with. So what have we got then? We've got shelter, we've got tools, we've got fire, we've got cooking, anything I can think of next. This is no particular order neither, guys. Um, yeah, I think, something to carry it with. So the rucksack, that's going to be a challenging one. Putting together something to carry all these items with. Okay, so if you got any ideas and any other suggestions, chuck them in to the comment section, guys, if I've missed anything there. But that's something I want to do. I'm going to make this series of videos in segments. So I might do the first one around cooking and see if I can get all the cooking items for free together. I'm going to start with those free huts to see what's in there. And then if I can't get everything I need from there, then I'm going to start looking at other things. And I'll also see if I can make some items. I'm going to look at other options to show you guys as well. So I'll start there and then maybe move on to something like shelter or fire or something down those lines. No particular order. But the series is going to be called Bushcraft for Free. This is the intro video that I'm doing now. For now, I'm just going to enjoy my coffee, eat my lunch, and then go home. But yeah, look out for the videos, guys, and let me know what you think of this idea. See if it's something going to be beneficial for you. Once I've got the gear together, I'm going to camp out overnight with it, and then I'm going to do a generous thing and give it all away because I don't need that stuff. I've got more than enough items to use in the outdoors. I've got plenty of gear and equipment, so I'm going to give it away. Whether that's to a viewer, then I'll decide that. But there might be someone out there who really needs it anyways. I might actually give it to my friend who's saying how much does it cost. So we'll see how that goes. But guys, if you enjoyed today's video, if this is something you like the idea of, let me know. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a subscription. That'd be ideal. And look out for the first video for Bushcraft for Free.